Are you ready to break free from the doubts and limits holding you back? Welcome to Embrace Your Value, where therapy meets coaching to help you unlock your true worth and take control of your life.
Hi, I'm Kristen, a trauma therapist dedicated to helping you heal, break old patterns, and reclaim your power.
And I'm Jen, your support coach, here to show you how to set fierce boundaries, embrace self compassion, and step boldly into the life you deserve.
So, whether you're stuck in self doubt or feeling lost, know this: your value isn't up for negotiation. It's time to own it.
Every week, we tackle real issues that challenge, inspire, and empower you to live with purpose and confidence.
So, grab your favorite drink, take a deep breath, and let's get started.
Because you're not here to play small. It's time to embrace your value. Hey, welcome back to the Embrace Your Value podcast. We are so excited that you are back with us, and we actually have a really important topic to talk about today. So let's dive in, let's get into it. We are going to talk about SAD, which is I'm learning are two different things. Like there's two different ways you can look at it. So seasonal affective disorder or seasonal affective depression disorder. So I'm going to let Kristen start us off, and then we're just going to have a little conversation around it, hopefully for your benefit. And if you have questions, always drop those for us. We'd love to come back and answer them.
Yeah, Jen, I think this is a really appropriate conversation around this time of year, right? You and I live in the Midwest, so there's a lot less sunshine during this time of year. And so a lot of clients will come in and they will be struggling with SAD, which the first one you mentioned, which is seasonal affective disorder, is sort of when you're just not feeling yourself, right? Like the sun's not out, you're not getting that vitamin D, sunshine, warmth, right? Just even the warmth of the sunshine. And then there's SADD, which is seasonal affective depression disorder. And that's when we're looking at more of like a depressive type. So, and the difference will become a little bit more clear as we continue to talk about this. So it's more than just the winter blues. It's not just, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, go ahead and get things done. This is a real, it's not a diagnosable DSM, but it is a very real phenomenon that happens in a lot of states that don't have like you mentioned Alaska, right? So like this is a thing in Alaska too, but Seattle, Portland, places that even during the summertime, like here, we'll get tons of sun. There, they're not even getting as much sun. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit and how these things sort of impact our mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's just a lot here. I know for me, it's something I've known about for a while, but I didn't always recognize it, if that makes any sense. Like I knew it was a thing, but sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you don't recognize it. And so this past January 2024, was brutal for us here in the Midwest. And it was a very cold, it was just so cold to the point where I know a lot of people didn't get out of their house at all. There wasn't any sun. I think for 3.5 weeks we didn't have any real sunlight. It was very cloud covered and whatnot. And I know myself included, but I had several clients and family members, close family members that really struggled with feeling like themselves, with understanding what was going on. And that's when this really became an important topic to me. And I started researching it. I started looking at what is this? How do I help my clients? How do we do this? And so I wanted to kind of bring this in closer to like make it a thing so that we recognize it quicker. We get the help we need quicker. And we really can just know that it's happening. I think that's really important. It's again, it's that self-awareness piece that we always talk about, but I think it's so important. And I know for me, I don't plan on going through any of that this year. I plan on being really proactive with myself, and we're going to give you some tips and some tools to use. And I plan on using those right away and just really taking good care of my mental well-being.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that story, Jen. It's a lot of what you said, right? It's the colder weather, it's the lack of sunshine, it's the lack of like the daylight. Like you said, it's like 4:30 and it's starting to get darker now. And we just had our time change. But you know, even in the morning when people are getting up, like I get up at 5:45 to go to the gym, it's dark. And then when I get out of the gym, it's barely starting to get light. And it's just like, where is my sunshine? And anybody who works in an office who doesn't have a window, thankfully I have a window. But imagine being in a cubicle or being in an office, like an interior office without a window. You don't see the sun at all. You're going to work in the dark, you're coming home in the dark, and it just gets overwhelming sometimes. So, those are the environmental factors. Also, some of the biological factors is like our body needs vitamin D to feel peppy, right? It's one of those things that we don't get as much of as adults because a lot of us aren't drinking as much milk. Um, Maybe we're not outside as much as kids are, right? We don't get recess. I mean, maybe you do if you have a really cool job or something like that, or you work at home and you can go take your dog for a walk or something. But most of us don't get recess. We can't just, go out and do whatever. So there's like this biological piece as well, is that our body needs this, but we're also not getting as much exercise during the winter months because like it is in the Midwest, it's colder. So I think those are some of the factors. Now you were talking about I don't want to have to go through this. So let's talk about some of these symptoms and triggers that people have around this. And you let me know if any of these sort of applied to you or your clients or anybody, in your family that you know. So it's things like low energy. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get out of bed. Today is going to be terrible. Changes in sleep, right? This could be sleep too much, which makes sense. It could also be sleep too little, right? Changes in appetite. Right. We want comfort foods. Like for me, I'm never really a soup person until it gets cold. And then I like soups. And so I have to really like be conscious about not eating noodles in my soup all the time. Potato soups, like those are so I try to stick with like a meat and vegetable type soup. But we want those comfort foods, and those comfort foods tend to be those higher in carbs, higher, more dense foods. So there's irritability, right? Okay, so people think, wow, irritability. It can be anywhere from, why'd you say that to me, to explosion, right? So irritability, if gone unchecked, can get really out of control. So these are the self-awareness things that you're talking about, Jen, that people really need to be able to do. Another one, difficulty concentrating, brain fog, like that kind of feeling. Um, that's also really hard because we don't have that sunshine to kind of make us feel awake, right? And then I think the one that affects people the most is this feeling of sadness or despair. And what really makes this like a sad versus like like a major depressive disorder is that it's seasonally cyclical. Major depressive disorder is you're going to feel like that more days than not. This is more when it gets cold, when it starts moving into those shorter days. That's when I'm feeling this. The rest of the year, I'm feeling good. So, did any of those sound familiar to you, Jen?
Oh, I think they all do. And, I definitely well, I relate with all of them. So yes, absolutely. But I think the comfort food thing for sure. I mean, that's always kind of a winter thing anyway. But yeah, when you're feeling low and sad, it's like that's a pick me up. It's also a dopamine release. So, there's a lot of truth in that, which helps us out. And I know when my clients come to me and they're feeling this way, as long as they're not feeling despair, I try to just guide them as best I can and continue to check in with them. If they are feeling despair, I always encourage them to either contact their doctor or contact a therapist, somebody that can help them in a different situation and more accurately, because that's not what I do and that's not, how I would treat that's exactly how I would treat it. I would go see a therapist. If I were feeling despair, that's what I would do. And I would always encourage them to do that. Yeah, I think those are all really great. And they're great things for you guys to watch out for this winter and just kind of see. And maybe it's not even winter. Maybe it's, another time of the year and you just start to get this cycle. It doesn't have to just be winter when this comes around. It's just this is when it's most prevalent.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree that some people will get it in the fall as they're anticipating the winter, or some people will get it in the spring. And sometimes that's associated with like the holidays are over and now we kind of have to go back and, or even that it's a new year and maybe you're not looking forward to a new year. And so, we've got the beginning part of that year. So I think all of these things are really important to pay attention to no matter what time of year it is. Um, so thanks for sharing that, because I think it's really important for people to know that they're like not alone in this, and that it's not just oh, the winter blues or the winter blahs or something like that. Like, so it's about being self-aware and being able to notice when things are going awry and know when to start doing some of the coping mechanisms and tips that I'm about to give. And even better, Jen, you mentioned this, is like when to know, how do we know when to get professional help, right? So
Absolutely.
some good coping mechanisms. One thing that's really been, I mean, this has been around for a long time in different forms, is light therapy, right? So there's light boxes, there's dawn simulators, so that when you wake up and it's dark outside, like it brings light into your room. There's like we used to, you know, back when I was a kid, it was like a sun lamp, right? And we would actually use them to tan, but they're really great for, like, they've obviously made them a lot less scary. But they're also great for getting that like sunlight feeling. Another thing to do is adding vitamin D into your regimen, your vitamin regimen. Talk to your doctor first, of course. But that is a easy way to like get jump started on these things, and it's something that we need anyway. Nutrition. Okay. So nutrition, we talked about this, right? Those comfort foods. It's really easy to get those super heavy foods in our bodies and snuggle up on the couch and, start watching Christmas movies and stuff like that. But we want to make sure that we focus on a lot of good vegetables, leafy greens, fruit, lean meats, lean proteins, and things like that, in addition to our comfort foods, so that we can, make sure that we're keeping up our energy level where it needs to be. Because if we're taking in all of these heavy foods, then yeah, we're going to be like sluggish. We're going to not want to go out on that walk. We're going to not want to get out of bed and go do the things. So taking in all of those good foods so that we can fuel our bodies in the appropriate way. Hydration, right? I have learned so much about water over the last 2 years and hydration. It's been crazy. My journey with water has been a little frustrating at times, because I was drinking a ton of water but not staying hydrated. So I had to add some electrolytes in, just because of the nature of my job. I can only, go to the bathroom at certain times. So I was having to sort of schedule all that out. But I'm working on it and realizing how important hydration is for your body to be healthy, and for your organs to function, for your brain to function, right? It's like all of these things are help to function with water, with hydration. Okay. I talked about exercise and movement, physical activity, walking. If you're starting to feel groggy, you're starting to feel like you need to get up and move, like just do some, walk in place. Like, some of us work in an office, and so maybe we have to do something that's more subtle. Maybe we just take a walk around the office. I know I've done that here in my building. We have a big circle. So I'll just take a big circle lap around the floor or go up and down the stairs a couple of times. Or in your house, you can go up and down the stairs in your house if you have stairs. But getting outside, right? Getting some fresh air. I'm always about getting in and doing stuff outside and in nature and things like that. So, but just any kind of exercise, even if it's like wall push-ups or sit on the chair, get up the chair, do something like that. Chair push-ups, all of those things. Okay. This one I think is probably the most important. And this is something that I talk to people about nearly every day is sleep hygiene. So keeping a consistent sleep schedule to combat this fatigue that comes out during these moments when we're in sort of that sad place, or the light, isn't out as much as we'd like, the sun isn't out as much as we like. So what does it even look like? People are like, oh, well, I sleep fine. And it's like, okay, well, how many hours are you getting? What's the quality of your sleep? And do you have a schedule? Those are the three things that I feel are the most important. So number one being have a schedule, right? Go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time, whether it's the weekend, whether it's your day off, whatever it is. Making sure that you're getting quality sleep. So no screens before bed. I know everybody hates this, but like 2 hours before you want to go to sleep, screens off. Read a book, do some knitting, do some cross stitch. I don't know what people do out there, but and all of it's okay, right? But turn the screens off. So, 2 hours before you want to fall asleep, turn those screens off. Making sure that you're in the right environment for you to sleep. So my environment happens to be as dark as possible and very, very cold. I've had my window open every night for the last week, and I love it because it's like 45 degrees here at night. So for me, that's great. I get a bunch of blankets, but not everybody's like that. So making sure you have a very comfortable environment. No screens, and we don't want to eat too late, right? Especially high calorie, high carb foods. We don't want to eat too close to bedtime because then our body is too busy digesting to relax, slow down, calm. Um, Also, clearing your mind, some mindfulness, some meditation before you go to bed. A lot of times people come in and say, I have a really hard time going to sleep because my mind is just moving, moving, moving. First of all, turn your screens off. Second of all, create a comfortable place for you, and then do everything you can do to like relax and get into that mindfulness and or meditation place. So if we go to sleep at the same time every night and we get up at the same time every morning, then we have a much higher success rate of getting good quality sleep that includes that REM sleep that we all need so much, because that's when we process our day. So I know, Jen, you do a lot with mindfulness and stuff. Can you share some of your tips and techniques?
Yeah, well, and one of the things that hit me as you were talking is if you really struggle with the screen thing, here's compromise. Find a good either meditation on YouTube and play it through your phone. You're not totally giving up your screen, but you're not really watching it and you're just listening to it. So it's like your phone's still there, but you are doing a meditation. Or there are some really great apps as well out there that you can do meditations and some mindfulness with. And you can use those as well. And I will tell you, I love a good bedtime meditation. My husband might not, but I do. And so we do kind of compromise because I can't do headphones. I have to we have cats and I have to know what's coming around me because they do jump on the bed in the middle of me when I'm doing a meditation. So it tends to scare me. But I do love a good meditation at night, right before I'm going to sleep. It's just a great way. But I also love a good meditation any time of the day. And you can do meditation however it works for you. I am not one of those people that believes you can only do meditation when you're quiet, when you're not saying anything and turning your brain off. I think guided meditations can be just as effective. It depends on where you're at in your journey and what you need in that moment. Yes, I think it's important to be able to sit quietly for at least 5 minutes at a time and just let thoughts roll through your mind. You don't have to hold on to them, you don't have to judge them. None of that. That's really what meditation and mindfulness is about, is just letting the thought be there and then pushing it away. Letting another thought come in and pushing it away and not attaching to anything. If you have like a grandfather clock that ticks or a metronome, that is a great way to do just silent meditation because you just focus on that noise. You don't think about anything else. You can sit and listen to the refrigerator hum. I mean, whatever it is, if you've got something that makes a noise, sometimes I sit and listen to my cats breathe because one of them breathes really loudly and I can hear him. So that's what brought that up. But just being in that, I have this awareness, I have this presence, and I can just slow down because that's really what it's about. It's about allowing you some time to breathe, both literally and emotionally. Like you might not think that breathing emotionally is a thing, but it absolutely is. You have to let your emotions go, or they will just continue to engulf you and then they take over and we don't know where we start and where they end. And I never want that for my clients or for you guys or for anybody. So just doing that, and meditation is really how we get mindful. So a lot of people ask me, well, what's the difference? And sometimes there really isn't much difference. But meditation is how you get mindful, and being mindful means being in this present moment at this present time, not thinking about 55 other things. It means being right here, thinking about what you're doing. So here's a good way to challenge yourself to becoming more mindful. And if you don't know that you're, whether you're not or you're being mindful, this is a good way to know this. If you always, and I'm saying always, I'm not saying like once every 6 months, but if you always find yourself saying, oh my gosh, I don't know what I was going to say next, because you know you were thinking about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, you need some mindfulness. It's time to turn that off, bring that back in, and just let it be. And a great way to practice mindfulness, especially if you like to be social. My husband and I do this every once in a while, and I love these days. They're the most precious days that we have together. And that is, we get up in the morning and we will kind of plan it. So we will get up in the morning, we will have one thing planned. And I will say, it's usually breakfast. And I will say to him, I don't want to plan out the rest of our day. I just want to take it one step at a time. So let's finish eating. And when we're done eating, let's sit here. And when we're ready to do something else, then let's make that next decision. And we've done it enough now that I don't really have to say it, but we have the best days. Like we don't plan anything. It's just whatever we're going to do next. And it's wherever we feel led. And I love those days. And I need those days. Those are the days that recharge me, that make me feel like I'm a whole person again, because I've spent so much time just being focused on everything. So sorry, that was a really long answer for that, but mindfulness and meditation is such an important thing. Um, I also think building a winter wellness routine is important. I love that Kristen was talking about like a nighttime routine and having that ready. I also think a morning routine is super important. I believe in getting up at the same time every day. I'm not perfect at it, but I do a lot better than I ever used to. And getting up and kind of doing the same things. Some people have journaling routines where they get up and they journal. Some people do their meditation first thing in the morning, and that's really great too. I believe in gratitude first thing in the morning. And so I get up and I think and say out loud 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for. I have clients that message me before they go to work of their 3 things that they're grateful for. That's just a way to make that morning routine. And what that really brings in for you, you could add in some stretching into your morning routine, just whatever it is. It could even be getting up and drinking a full glass of water first thing. Like it's not a cookie cutter thing. It's what works for you. And if you're building a routine, whether it's morning or night or both, start small. Start with one thing you're going to do consistently on either side or both, and start there and do them consistently for a week, 2 weeks, and then add in a second thing. You get to make those decisions. You guys get to decide that. But if you try to do 10 things, you're like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to stretch and I'm going to journal and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to drink a glass of water and I'm going to be grateful. Chances are you're going to do maybe one of them, or you're going to do all of those things for maybe a day, maybe two. And then you're going to be like, this is exhausting because you're not conditioned to do that yet, right? We have to work into that. So building that routine. And what I have found for me is that when I build those routines, it brings me joy. When I get out of my routine, I tend to really get kind of almost in a funk because I'm not doing the things I need to be doing. I'm not taking care of my emotional health, my mental wellness. I'm not doing that. And so a really great way for me to get back into that is to spend the day and just think about, like, at the end of the day, just think about all the things that brought me joy. And then I might build a new routine. It might not even be exactly the same. Maybe that routine was old and I needed to change it up. So then I just start thinking, what are the things that brought me joy today? What are the things that brought me joy yesterday? And I start writing them down. Where are my commons? What things do I really need in my life? And those are the things that I really pull from and use to just keep myself on track and really bring a lot of comfort into my day and make me just the happiest girl I can be.
That's great. It's amazing. All the things that you shared. You have so many great things that you do, Jen. Kind of jealous, right? But it's about we make time for the things that are important to us. And if your self-care and your wellness is important to you, you will make the time to do things like journal and do meditation. And they do take time. And that's what Jen's saying. It's not everything has to happen at once, right? Everything goes a little bit at a time, and that's okay, right? 10%, 2%, just let's keep pushing the ball forward just a little bit so that we can start incorporating these things. And I love the reflection on what were the things that brought me joy, and do I need to add those things into my routine? Right. So like you were talking about with your husband, like you guys found that that brought you joy. So you created a routine that now is a little bit more unspoken, where we just, you know what, this is a day we don't have any obligations. We're just going to kind of do whatever comes next. We're not going to make a plan. There's not going to be a checklist to go through or do anything like that. So you actually shared just a ton of really great tips, Jen. I appreciate that. I learned a few things too, so I appreciate that as well. So, yeah, like we want to find those small moments of joy. We want to find relaxation that bring those good feelings. So, I think what's really important is for people to know, you said something about this earlier, is like, when do we actually get professional help, right? So when does this go from, oh, I'm just having a bad day, or it's been a rough week, to I'm depressed, I need help, right? I need to find medication, maybe, you know, a little bit more structure with maybe a professional or something like that. Maybe you need an accountability coach, maybe you need a therapist. So we want to do those things. So I would say the most important thing is, are we getting done the things that we need to get done, right? Are we getting up and taking care of our hygiene and taking care of ourselves, taking care of our kids, taking care of our animals, going to work, doing those things, brushing your teeth. Like, you'd be surprised how many depressed people just get up and put their hair up in a ponytail or throw a hat on and go do their thing. And then nobody really knows that they're depressed, but they also haven't like taken a shower in 5 days, right? So these are things that you really want to look for. And we call those like daily functioning things. Is that if your daily functioning starts to deteriorate without like a good solid reason, like I was exhausted at the end of the day and didn't have time to take a shower, so I just fell into bed. Um, those are the things that I would look for when you're starting to feel like a lot of despair, that hopelessness, that despair, and that lasts over a number of days in a row, or the intensity is really, really high for more days than you would like, then right. So if you think you need help, you probably need help. Lots of resources for finding help. And this is something we haven't really talked about. Is like, if I want a therapist, if I want a coach, if I want a counselor, if I want medication, where do I go? And there's a lot of resources out there, right? And we live in a wonderful digital age where all of the information is at our fingertips. So if you're okay, Jen, I want to give people some good solid tips on like if they want to find a professional provider, what are the things that I recommend that people do? So I would say the first thing you want to do is ask people for references. Like if there's people that that go to therapy or that see a doctor or a psychiatrist or have a coach, say, hey, do you like your therapist? Do you like a coach? Do you like your doctor? Because if we know the person, we trust the person, and that person trusts the provider, we're probably going to trust the provider as well. So I think that's like the first line of things to try to do. Second line is if you don't know anybody that is doing any of these things, or maybe you don't want to ask the people that you're not feeling comfortable about that. There are a lot of like online directories. The big ones are like Psychology Today for therapists, Psychology Today. You can also find psychiatrists on there. There's a couple of other therapists. Good Therapy is one. Obviously, during COVID, there was this big push for online therapy. So there's a bunch of online therapy websites out there, apps for people as well. I prefer doing therapy in person, so I don't tend to put myself out on those kinds of things. I like being in people's energy and being in their space. Um, and then the next thing is just kind of like Googling something near you. So those are the ways that I would, start to whittle down, where do I find somebody? And then a really good thing to do is look at their profiles on these different directories. Go to their LinkedIn. And this is what people do with me. This is how I know, is they look at my LinkedIn, they look at my website, they look at my profile on Psychology Today. If therapists don't have a lot of referrals out there, I think I have a couple, but that's not something people generally do for therapists. So that's kind of hard to go through. But if you feel like, you see the person's picture, you look at their profile and you go, man, this person sounds like somebody that I could connect with, give them a call and try to set up an appointment. And I think those are the best ways, right? Finding somebody that trying to get a referral that way, and then kind of like the old what we used to do is open the phone book and stick your finger on there, unfortunately. But we do have a little bit more information today where we can look at profiles and things like that. So those are my tips and tricks for finding a therapist and or a doctor.
Can I add
Um,
one thought?
yeah, for sure.
Don't feel like just because you try someone and you're like in the middle of it and you're like, oh, I don't feel like this is right. Don't feel obligated to have to stay with that person. Whether it's a
Yeah.
therapist, whether it's a coach, whether it's like a psychologist, like if you get the heebie-jeebies or whatever, you don't feel like it's right, please speak up for yourself, say, I can't do this anymore, and try someone else. Don't just give up and don't stay in that when you feel like it's not right for you. I've actually had a couple clients come to me who have been doing some sort of therapy or working with psychologists and whatnot, and they're like, I decided to try a coach because that wasn't working, and but they were still working with them. And I was like, if you aren't liking it, you don't have to stay. And I'm not saying that you go from that to a coach, but you definitely don't have to stay in something that's not feeling right for you. So I just want to throw that out there because I think that's important.
Yeah, I very much appreciate that because I hear that a lot too, is that, oh, I was with this therapist for 2 years and I didn't feel like we were getting anything done and I didn't feel like I was getting any better. And yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because this is another thing. When I've had people come in and they say, I'm therapist shopping, I really appreciate that. Like I 100% think if you have the time and the resources that you can go look at those profiles, pick out two or three people that you think are interesting and go see them and just tell them like, hey, I'm just looking for the right person. If a therapist isn't like, I love that you're doing that, they're the wrong therapist because I think that that's the number one best way to see if that you have an alignment with a provider, coach, whatever. Because what we were taught in school is like it's 80 to 85% of people getting better is really just the relationship that they create with their provider. And so if people feel like they can really trust you and that you know what you're talking about and that you are passionate about what you're doing, they're going to get better just by way of having someone that's aligned with them. So yes, absolutely feeling comfortable with your provider, whoever it is, for whatever it is, chiropractor, coach, therapist, doctor, anything, be comfortable with that person. Because here's the thing, if you don't give that person all of your information, so like I do trauma therapy, that's a really hard thing for people to bring to the table. A lot of times people will hold back because it can be scary, it can be shameful, you could be nerve-wracking to try to tell somebody everything that's going on with your life. And so it's if you don't feel comfortable with that person, you're not going to give them all of the information, and therefore they cannot help you in the way that you need to be helped. So if you don't feel safe to tell your therapist or your provider everything that you have going on, get somebody else. Absolutely. I say at the end of every first session, I'm like, if you would like to come back, right? If you feel like we're a good fit, I feel like I can help you. If you feel like I can help you as well, let's reschedule. If not, that's great. Here are some names if you want to try to find somebody else that might be more in line with what you're looking for. So yeah, thanks for saying that, Jen.
Absolutely. That just kind of popped up and I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's something I think one of the things I've learned with coaching especially is that we as humans need permission to do certain things. Even though we really don't, we feel like we do. So there's a lot of times I give my clients permission to do something that might seem silly, but I'll be like, "You have permission to forgive yourself. You have permission to not be angry anymore for that situation, whatever it is." And so I feel like that's another thing that you have permission to not stay with one person just because you did, and you don't have to stay for years and then still be in the same boat. You get to choose sooner. So, yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. And if you feel like your provider isn't doing the things that you need them to do, I really encourage people to have a conversation with them. I know it can be scary, but as a therapist, I would rather have somebody come have a conversation with me and say, and this has happened to me before, is like that thing that you said made me feel really uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you brought that to me because a lot of times what people will do is they'll just cut and run. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't help you, right? As a client, because now you feel like this trust or this relationship has been broken and you feel like you have to go now redo a whole relationship with somebody else. It doesn't help me as a provider because I don't always know if I'm I'm not perfect. Like, I don't know that I'm offending somebody. Sometimes, I could be a little brash and kind of outspoken. And so sometimes people are like, oh, I didn't like that. So it's important for me to get feedback from people about like if I've said or done something that has somehow hit them wrong, because it's obviously never ever my intention. And it's a good talking point about why did this thing trigger you? Okay, let's figure that out. And then we can move through it and move away from it. If we can't, then I'm the first person to say, if you feel like our trust has been broken, please let me give you some names of some people, or go ahead and find, your own therapist, because it's so, so important to have that trust with your provider, no matter what kind of provider it is.
Yes, I would agree wholeheartedly 100%. So this actually ran a little bit longer than we were thinking it might. But I think it was really great. I think it was really all encompassing, and I hope that you guys got a lot out of it. If you are struggling with this, so if you're listening to this in a couple of months, if you're whatever it is, if you're struggling with this and you want some help, please reach out. We are both here to support you guys. We are here because we care. We don't do this just because we like to hear ourselves talk. We really don't. I mean, we might like to hear that, but we really want to be helpful and useful and beneficial for you. So if you have questions, if you need something, let us know. We would also really love to hear, like, what was your favorite tip from this? What did you get out of this episode? We'd love to hear that. So feel free to drop that in the notes, and leave us a comment or shoot us an email. Any of that would be great. And yeah, I think this was fantastic. Thank you so much for all of your insight, Kristen.
Oh, you're so welcome. And we also want to know if there's any topics that you guys would like us to cover. Would love to get some comments. Or, if you know somebody that maybe is struggling with this, you can share this with them. Pop a little like on there, share it up with some friends. We want to reach as many people as we can to help as many people as we are able to. So we really appreciate you tuning into this episode, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Thank you for being here with us today.
If today's episode hit home, don't just keep it to yourself. Subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Because everyone deserves to know their worth.
Next week, we're diving even deeper with more insights and tools to help you break free from limitations and live authentically.
Until then, keep raising your standards, owning your worth, and embracing your value.